almost, between good afternoon and good evening. And for the session titled The Young and the Restless, it's wonderful to see such a young audience. So thank you very much for being here. And I think that we will straight away embark into the session with Avinab. And let us see what he has to say about being young, being restless, and about putting this in and through his poetry. So it's over to you, Avinab.
The drunk at the Hagia Sophia. The seraphim turn you down. Hear the little nerve birds choking on corks of blood. Fugitive fossil, drenched scroll in someone's selfie frame. You crawl to the blinding filigree and retch outside the Sultan's library. Your history, my friend, but it's not only you. Look at the weeping numbers underneath his dome, spilling their coffee beside the weeping column. It burns you to see. Oh fuck, I'm so sorry.
We could do that again. Yes, Avinab, we can do that again. Please begin.
It burns you to see that we're all alike after all, first hung between fates and now relics of glistening death. Think, was someone else too loveless here? A patch of mosaic glimmers, maybe somebody was pardoned there. Then light changes its mind. At times, there just might be enough reason to pull a stranger close and ask the impossible of them. Beneath your collarbone, above the heart, a page from no known book crumples. Someone's praying for you. You know it when you're thirsty.
Thank you for that. And we move over to Karuna and to what she has to say and to say in prose and through her poetry.
Thank you. That was really beautiful. Thank you. Despite, I don't know if everyone heard the entire thing.
Guffaw and
I'm so sorry. I think that there's a discussion going on at the back there. So if, we can take that outside the room because poetry is fragile as it is. Shout over the top.
yes, probably start growling.
So, this session was titled The Young and the Restless, and before we came in here today, the five of us were trying to have sort of broken discussions about what that means. And it's a pretty vast topic. And each of us, I think, climbs it in our own way and tries to dismantle it a little in our own way. But one of the themes that I found ran through my book, especially the poems that I'd written when I was a bit younger and more restless, was that of the dark side of mental health problems. And I was saying this yesterday as well, that I'm so glad we're talking about depression and things like that now a little more openly. We have a long way to go, but this is, I'm going to read a poem. Louder? Is that better? Oh, sorry. It sounds so terribly loud up here, So, all right. So I'm going to read a poem called Gathering about this. Imagine going back to before the first panic attack, before the world revealed itself as the flimsy neon-edged thing it is, and your teeth were intact once you had never woken to the dust of your own enamel in your own mauve mouth, that place supposedly full of kisses waiting to be given as reward for winning your brittle, fickle heart. Once you were not something to unknot, you were whole as sullen, pickled plums. Once you were unbred by politics, cusping on curiosity, not spent on the daily pounding of persistent anger. Imagine if you knew no thieving of breath, No shame of tears in the sticky velour back of a taxi cab as you wail, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, and the one person you trust says, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, on that untrustworthy machine, your fucking phone, but it isn't okay. But hush, hush, imagine, before all this, somewhere you were being born. You were prawn head, crinkle butt, flush face, you were a speck, you were atoms gathering weightless space, and then not. Once, you were a moment of want.
Fabulous, that being unknotted and the knotting up, as you grow up, that was wonderful. So Kiran, I invite you next, to comment on what has just been read and also on how you relate at what tangent to this particular idea.
Hello. First, let me test the mic. Yes, this is very audible, I think. Namaskara ellaರಿಗೂ. ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ ತುಂಬ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಕಿರಣ್ ಭಟ್. ನಾನು ಒಬ್ಬ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಮೂಲದ ಅಮೆರಿಕದವನು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದದಿಂದ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಸೆ ಇತ್ತು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ at least introduction ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಖುಷಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. And I'll say the rest in English. But ನನ್ನ ಹಾರ್ದಿಕ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದದಿಂದ. So I'm an Indian American author. I grew up in the US, but my family is from Karnataka, from Dakshin Kannada. And I am a polyglot as well. I'm very interested in what it means to move between languages, move between cultures, be borderless, ephemeral, etc. And so I have this book that is available outside. If you would like to look at it later, please do. And it is a set of writings I've done in Spanish, Mandarin, and Turkish, and I've also written in English. So one of the poems is about traveling, and since this is about being young and restless and all over the place, I wanted to read a poem that originally was written in Spanish and is set at the time that I decided to become a global nomad. 2012. But I'll read it in English, not in Spanish, unless someone really wants me to read it in Spanish. Unless someone really wants it in Spanish. Okay. 2012. I traveled from the south of Chile to Central America, like the Wi-Fi connection on which I worked on. Placeless, limitless, ephemeral. It was like I was moving through the speed of eternity, like a comet traversing infinity. My fingers, my lungs, connected only to a cord. Unlimited, dislimited, a lifestyle experiment, a new line unexplored, consuming everything, but not learning enough. It was because I was mostly escaping my sadness or my solitude, trying to move around, but getting trapped because my emotions did not. To shine, to travel, to never be known, is it the best way to live? I don't know. Islands inside of quotidian lakes, pre-Columbian ruins at the basement to Catholic churches, lavish Oscar Niemeyer buildings, glaciers at the end of the world. Everything was at my fingertips, but I was completely out of control.
Thank you. That is wonderful, Kiran. Completely out of control. Rhymes in with the idea of restlessness. And we move over to Siddharth and to his ideas on what it means to talk about youth and restlessness in poetry.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for dropping in. It's lovely to see people in the flesh for poetry. When we were discussing this theme and what we might sort of speak about, Basudhara asked me, what do you think the themes of your writing might be? Just in general. And it sort of struck me that one of them is desire, very, very fiercely. But another is also a sense of movement and travel and a sense of cadence. So this is a poem that sort of speaks to that. A poem of love, a poem of journeying, both equally treacherous things. A date, an address, and little else. Stop sending me postcards from cities where we made love. Time-stamped, time-stamps, everything reduces beneath glass. The quietude to forgotten piazza, the sad old men of Damascus, the cafes where a day lingers as prelude and etude, everything made shiny with the kiss of age all but burnished away. Stop writing to tell me that the cities were better last time around. That's what happens with repeated pleasure. It sucks at the marrow of flavor and memory. It leaves the first gasp orphaned. It leaves the first touch a distant happiness. Like that time you stumbled into snow, that time you swallowed its foreignness with the tongue of a parched Sufi. The delinquencies of the seasons, globules of incremental blood, your stuttering breath licked on postage and left behind like a quantum of ancestral weight. Coasting on the adamant ferocity of phrase, I write this down and send it to you, aware of the perils of nomadic flight. Stop sending me poems on familiar paper, you reply. Everything's precious until it's airmailed away.
Thank you, Siddharth. And I think we take away that repeated pleasure sucks on the marrow of memory. Right, so it comes to me, and I think that I would like to read a poem from my second collection. It's titled Home Truths, because once you grow up, you probably also begin to question. It's not just the pandemic that makes you question the idea of home, of homing in. It's also every day, you know, you are homed and unhomed with every experience that life leads you through. So this is a poem that's called Home Truths. A home is obvious, inevitable. It is contingent, dispensable. A home is what you seek, never find. It's where you're forced to return each night. A home is a permanent address. It's always meant to be lost. It rests on the whims of others. It can be burned, vandalized, robbed. A home is a theorem. It's a conjecture. A home is arrived at like a syllogism. It's a fallacy continuously deferred. A home is a signified. No, it's an aporia. A home is concrete. Name, place, animal, thing. It's only abstract. Enjambment, fiction, and apostrophes, wet dream. And with that, I think we can have another round of poetry all around. And so back to you, Avinab, for another poem, and also to say something about what it means to you to talk about youth and restlessness in poetry.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm having a panic attack right now, I just like.
I
read
know.
a
With
poem.
poetry, all
Yeah,
panics,
because, yeah,
you metaphorize into something
yeah,
beautiful.
Just read a poem which revisits that. It's called the 19th Birthday Panic Attack. Yeah, this is good. This is good. Yeah. Yeah. A tunnel entering a tunnel. You think there's too much time to swell through, stay sane in. Whips of water pray down the tunnel's walls, over the black-green inverted paradise, but not yours, moss. And the experience is again hunted. At such a dawn, its sleep-deprived axe trying to cross the intersection. You climb the cliff, infinitely skidding proscenium, where one instant you're spooned motherly cartilage, and in the next you nurse a black hole's arrhythmia. And then you pass the sedan, devastatingly mangled, swerved and pitched at such an impossible angle. Imagining the whiplash makes you want to rip out your lips. Calm down, it's just a universe. Think of making the mind a Milky Way sandwich. And your father drives as if we're at that penultimate moment in time, in the universe's history, when the sun, our beloved sun, is about to die for real. This is just how the earth might go on. When the burning stops, someone will go on thinking. Nobody's looking, there's nothing. Slither as if you were a letter trying to slip itself somewhere deep inside light, to be discovered at its final dimming. A gray sheet of plastic pirouettes at the hill's base. From here it looks like hair. It'll be found.
Thank you, thank you. It will be found, yes. And over to you, Karuna.
I want to continue on this theme. I know it's a bit dark and, maybe back-to-back dark poems is hard, but the ultimate sort of goal of poetry, at least for me, is to trigger feelings, right? Is to delve into that which otherwise we don't give access to. And that's what poetry has always helped me do, both reading and writing it. So I thought I could read something similar. It's called Confession, and it's called that because it was so hard to write and because I think it's so hard to say these things and admit these things. I stress, scratch, break hapless skin, pick at unready scabs, then blot blood. Watch party nail polish grow out. Putting my words out here on the permanence and transience of the page, blazing honest dirty, feels like the dream when you leave the house naked, all your foolish parts on display, belly and blossoming hair, crumply knees grey like elbow, like neglect. Who are these folk with smooth corners, and do they ever write poems? About choking fear and what it feels like to feel ugly. My fingers are grubby at best. The soles of my feet have gnawed this bad world, and their cracked edges like big teeth chew earth. I am humus, but I am planting in my seeming decay rich futures. Thank you.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. And Kiran, over to you.
Hello again. So I had read earlier some poems that were originally written, I had read a poem that was originally written in Spanish, and that one was a part of an autobiography I wrote of my first 29 years of life, each one given a poem. This one will be a Chinese language poem in which I had kind of combined the Confucian dialectic form with a little bit of that bhakti sort of evocativeness. So it involves me getting questions from different people, inanimate objects, etc. This is a question involving my mother. So the poem is, my mother asks, "Do you not love me?" Kiran responds, "Of course I love you, but you and I are not the same. Our ideas on life are not the same. Our hearts are not the same. And so we do not exist as one. I left my home not because I don't love you. I left because I pursue knowledge. I want to understand humanity. I want to develop my talents. I want to take the earth in my hand and make it gold." Kiran speaks on. Ganesha and Karthik once had a contest. Shiva told them to circle the entire world. Karthik truly circled the world. Ganesha merely circled his parents. For Ganesha, the world was his parents. My parents are also my world, but my parents are not Shiva and Parvita. My parents, like anyone else on this earth, will die, as will I. But my work is eternal. It will live on for the sake of us three. Kiran repeats, "I love my mother. Thank you for giving me love, for giving me the resources to grow. But oil and wine cannot mix. No matter how much a tree supports its branches, if the tree is too close to the roots of others, the younger trees perish and die."
Thank you. That was wonderful. And over to Siddharth.
I think it's always nice to have such vastly different voices, on the stage. It makes for interesting sort of reading. Continuing with the stream of movement and cadence and disarray as being manifestations of perhaps an existential restlessness. This one's called "All These Photographs Go By So Fast." The end of a year, the Inquisition, the acceptance of translucence. All these cigarettes left dangling on the edges of ashtrays, the confluence of the unified smoke tinged with the blankness of lost goodbyes. Bristling beneath the tremor of unspoken remorse. All these conversations, words left hovering like the skins of derelict halos. Some left unsaid, some just urchins on this road to urban desire, exhaling the amberous consequences of limbs and lungs and lies and tongues. That perfect one lost in the crackle of earth, in the cracks of earth that time forgot to deny. All these sounds and bouquets, a year, a life, as imposed as footprints of ghosts, screech slush rhythm, traffic reverberates. Afternoons ripe with mellow, the yellow blur of love, hope, and other beautiful lies. The icy cool breakage of another year and its coterie of human beings, fragmented by the memory of other beautiful tides.
Thank you. And what could be more restless than limbs and lies and lungs and legs? So I think I misphrased that. Okay, but I just enjoyed the way it goes and the energy, with which it is phrased. All right, so I think I'll also continue the theme that everyone has brought up, the idea, and I think that Deepti Nawal introduced so wonderfully at the inaugural session. And this is a poem that's called Under. I try to meet you on even ground, but somehow always get lost. Around me are ruins of a silence difficult to clamber out of. They never said that fishbones swallowed at 9 would remain stuck in my throat like razor blades even after 40. I pack myself into Ma's leather suitcase when Dad's drunk. Don't let Ma fool you into believing he's dead. He never died. That accident was a sham. He's been hiding in the closet ever since, among weathered diaries, mothballed clothes, and those letters from brazen women. You think I'm lying? But I knew long ago about the time his secretary aborted, when his editors' meetings ran all night. You were only 5, too little and sound-struck to peel, lychee-like, the flesh of words. Ma did know it all. She's always known she's unwanted. Don't you offer me water? Do you think Closeril can cure? Restore a brand new me who knows like you to hold her tongue? Ask Ma, she'll tell you how my tongue has always been on fire. It's scorched black now, and the Valium you offer doesn't matter. I'm drawn by its color though, baby yellow. You had a sash of the same color when you were 2 and all dribble. I was 10, lonely dark, and you, a doll, come my way. I envied you when Dad would insist you kiss him goodbye. Shh, he's rustling through his papers now. Any moment that irascibility will break out like pox from his tongue. You pity me? Think I'm mad? I do understand all he wants of me is to divorce the man I never married. She had hair as soft as the silken tresses on corn cobs when I bled my guts on those tears. Her bud mouth never opened, and Ma never so much as shed a tear. The editor laughed from his closet. I'll have nothing to do with pictures. No epitaphs, reports, urns, wills, wreaths. Look out of the window. She's been rocking quietly in the garden 11 years without a shudder. And he isn't here, still pounding speech to silence. And I think we can have another quick round of short poems since we are still left with around 15 minutes. So over to you, Avinab.
Comb. A woman combs her hair on the balcony while her bird watches from its cage. It has lost most of its sheen and plumage, which makes me wonder if the woman has a son in a faraway country who has, moments ago, without realizing, averted great harm. Her arm moves like neglect for any feeling that might arise from anywhere else, but she has no reason to share my dread. Is there something she's trying to keep from her own head? The comb stutters for a bit. I've always wanted to be this alone, but never have I been so alone, I admit it.
Thank you. Karuna is over to you.
So, Avinab just brought women into the picture, and it's one thing to be young, it's another to be restless, And it's a completely different thing to be a woman and young and restless. And that is often called being reckless. So I wanted to read a poem about exactly that. It was written in recollection of growing up with two girlfriends of mine. I have been reckless with my girls. Flimsy as chiffon skirts we have behaved, irreverent as petals falling, flipping up in the wind. One, she was a sprite made of jazz and muscle, but even small men could capsize her with, say, a cigarette, a poem, a punch in the face. The other, she was short, bum like a temple dancer, decidedly atheist, pocket full of pot, a knife tongue of a girl, but still. Soft as 3 gummy bears, we would ride through the rape capital of the world, drunk on freedom, taking long, lusty, manless sips of it. Cheap whiskey breath, stockinged legs, I have mostly lived immortal. But one night we are caught in fog. Nature's unexpected treachery binds us closer. We go silent, peering. Fear grips us by the vulva and Fear grips us, no, that's fine. We go silent, peering. Fear grips us by the vulva and heat fizzes quickly out of scotch-bred throats as a truck beast looms up on a road name we don't know. We are frozen as ice cubes till one of us decides to roll down her window, lean out against headlight, a loon facing doom, scooped crimson winter cloak, revealing neck arched for death. She says breathlessly, "Bhaiya, March's hair." Everything pauses. He tosses down the box like fire from his loins at her like he has won. She lights up. A brown lock blows sex. An ember guides us home. Later, I sleep between them, fuzzy as bunnies. I ask myself, what saved us? Her beauty? The other one's caste? The accent? The big white car? I tuck guilt beneath the pillow, for every night I dream instead of die.
Which is beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Karuna. And next goes Kiran.
So I will now read something from the last third of my self-chanted poems. This is a poem that I wrote originally in Turkish, and these are a play on the Seyahatname, which is a travelogue that Evliya Çelebi wrote. He was a great Middle Eastern traveler of the 1600s and wrote a lot of interesting things about the world at that time. So I reflected on the 12 countries I consider my homelands, and I wrote a poem about each of them. So this one is about Turkey. Turkey is Turkey. And I also want to read it because I think it has thematic relevance to some of the things being talked about here. Turkey. How do you begin to imagine a narrative for yourself when your family has already imagined it for you? Or have they imagined it? Have they honestly imagined it? I would ask, but I'm too afraid, because there's the person I want to be, or rather the person I must be. And I know that isn't the person I am. So I must remain loud, vibrant, raucous when I can, but solemn, respectful, and fearful in front of others.
Thank you. Over to Siddharth.
What are you guys whispering about? Jesus. But after all this talk about journeying and restlessness and all of that, a love letter to home. Home, in this instance, being Pune. You'll just have to bear with me. The drunkard of Pattinson Road. On the radio, something from the 1950s. You know, immediately when something's from the 1950s, the hesitancy of voice, the ire of age, the innocence, nothing more than a photograph wrapped in quatrain, left to the whims of verses dipped in fire. In a city, its eyes the roar of minarets, I try to trace the passage of love, loves, spoken and swallowed by air, or left behind in the moodiness of books. The words, broken, bitten, and chewed, and memorized to heart, these shy fragments of fractal perfection. I follow the trails of love into neighborhoods where stanzas line the streets. Some the draped playfulness of Urdu, some the crisp decoration of Hindi, some the sweetened kiss of Bangla. Dancing my way through rosewater fountains and gardens bisected in fours, my dreams by now bisected in halves. A night, its veins ripped apart, a splinter of Khusro splitting the stillness of time. This land's umbilical marks its legacies opulently reaped. My inquest of love, now doused in the strange fruit of attar, loon, and the crescent of uninhabited things. I carry the overture with me, a 1950s dream, holding a composition of desire and Ghalib's wounded lunacies. I shall continue my search as long as the song continues to play. The hesitance, you might as well shut the door. Could you please shut the door? I carry the overture with me, a 1950s dream, holding a composition of desire and Ghalib's wounded lunacies. I shall continue my search as long as the song continues to play. The hesitancy of voice, the ire of age, this heart bound to the mischief of air, dile nadan, tujhe hua kya hai?
Thank you, and I have already got the signal from the organizers, so I'll just quickly wrap up with a very short poem resonating on the theme that was introduced for this particular round, that is woman. And the poem is titled, The Right Kind of Woman. The right kind of woman will inspire affection, regard, trust, not promiscuity, never lust. Bred by a mother equally right, she knows to avert her eyes to innuendos telling smiles. In crowded buses, shops, streets, she knows to shut tight, bud-like, relinquish space, circumscribe limbs. Above all, she knows the prudence of holding her tongue, of choosing silence's worth over wordy rebellion. Schooled to surrender in the dark, she knows unasked to feign desire, moan, stifle, sigh and coo. On her forehead, she has a third eye to emit fire, take sides, rake storms. Last night, its lid, rusted with disuse, fell out, and the right kind of woman laughed herself to death about all she had left undone, unsaid. Thank you, and thank you everyone here for such a wonderful session. Thank you.
So, if you don't, do we have time? Oh, we don't? Then never mind.
Right, thank you so much.